Good afternoon. We have a quorum, I guess. We do. The Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust will be in order, and the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from November the 24th. So moved. Motion and second to approve the minutes. Are there comments, questions, additions, corrections? Hearing none, voting please. Minutes are approved. Next item is a consent docket.
I'd move the consent docket for approval subject to individual consideration.
Second. Have a motion and a second to approve the consent docket. Are there matters to be considered individually? Hearing none, voting please. Consent docket's approved. Next item, concurrence docket.
I'd move the item.
Second. Motion and a second to approve this only item on the concurrence docket. Are there questions, comments? This is the generator or backup to a power loss project that we've discussed a number of times in the past.
That's correct, and this makes a minor change in the process.
All right. Any other comments or questions? Voting, please. Consent docket's approved. I mean the concurrence docket. Next item for individual consideration. The first one is a presentation concerning the Oklahoma City vegetation, the Draper. Well, no, yeah, the Draper Lake planting by the Water Resources Board.
Yes, Paul Koenig from the Water Resources Board is here with us this afternoon, as he has been several times in the past. Thank you for coming, Paul.
Yeah, I appreciate the invite and the ability to give you all an update on how things are going in the lake. I'll just reiterate, it's a cooperative effort project with two different parts of Oklahoma City, your parks, and then also the staff there at the lake, and also the Wildlife Department, the Fish Lab, and then, of course, the Water Resources Board. I do want to point out that Bob Martin's group has been real helpful. They participated in the planting. Unfortunately, Bob wasn't able to because of a family emergency. And also, Matt Salazar was super, super helpful in just getting around the lake and finding places on the lake. We found the hidden pen this summer that had been totally covered by willow trees, and he found it. This first slide, the main point of the slide is there's a big stack. It looks like a bush. There's a pin inside of that, and that's water willow, one of our emergent aquatic plants. The high water that we've had for a while at Draper was really, really beneficial for the emergent plants. They did super well. And you see the dead stands of the terrestrial grass, and then there's a wide kind of ring of water willow around that. Things grew really, really well. And so that's the point of that slide. Everything grew really well. That was an emergent plant, which includes Phragmites. This is the one site of large growth of Phragmites that we did not catch the last time. This is site 12. So Phragmites management continues. It's not eradication. But that was the other kind of point. The other thing that was really, really neat about this year is on the fall assessment, seed bank at work. What that means is, for example, in the upper left-hand corner is, it looks pretty peaked, but that's a rose mallow plant. It's a hibiscus family. We put maybe a dozen of those in around 2008. And so that is the progeny or the progeny of the progeny of one of those plants we put in. And there's more than one out there. I saw several while I was walking around. So this whole founder colony concept has really worked here. The upper right hand, it's kind of hard to tell, but in the scene in the foreground, there's something that looks kind of grass-like. That's bulrush growing. And in the background, just back behind that, before you go up the slope, is the same kind of colored, sort of thicker grass. That's a thicker patch of it. There's no pins there. There's no cages there. That started by seed, I don't know how long ago, and has spread. And so, again, that's what people have been looking for, and it's happening. The other really, really neat thing is the lower left-hand corner. It just looks green. The low stuff, it's called water hyssop or bacopa. Probably put several hundred of those in around 2008, 2009. That is a large majority of the shoreline right about normal pool. It's ringing the lake. And finally, the bottom right-hand corner is pickerel weed. There's a bunch of seedlings coming up. That's all from seeds that have been there for a while. So it was really nice to see that the further expression of that seed bank after even more so from last year. We had a planting event, several stacked up. We had high water and then we had low water. And so as soon as we could get in, we did. In the bottom right-hand corner is some of the folks from the Fish Lab, the Wildlife Department, putting in plants. We did some submerged aquatic plants while the lake was up to see just how they would do. They did take, and they actually did spread outside of some of the pens. We focused on the pens and not the cages. The larger herbivore exclosures, because we knew where they were, and there were some things coming back. You can see the water lilies in that. The upper left hand is staging with your parks folks, Bob Martin's group, and you can see the plants there are all of them except for that black-looking gook on that one boat are from the Wildlife Department, the Fish Lab nursery ponds. And we put in about 550 plants, some water lilies, emergent plants. They all did good. There was one of these pens where something dug under the fence, went underwater, and ate just the white part of the emergent plants. Not the green part and not the roots, but just the white part. I think they survived. And then the other thing we did is a little later on, like where you saw that lush growth of water willow, we ripped up a bunch of that, and then we sprigged it. Basically, your Johnny Appleseed, you're kicking off the boat as you're just cruising the shoreline, and a lot of that did take. We'll see how it does next year. Phragmites Management, the points we saw earlier in the year, 19, 6, and 9, which is over by Recreation Area 1, those got treated. We saw the coves 2, 3, 5, 13, and by the dam are small areas, and basically the high water killed off a lot of Phragmites, but the rootstock came back in the fall. And so after the spray, we found a lot of that, and point 12 was the only place where we saw an extensive stand of anything. So I feel really good about that, and y'all should too. The plant nursery of the wild at the Fish Lab, thanks to the heads up on lake levels, we were able to be really effective with this. We didn't put much stock or time into submerged aquatic plants. We did what we could easily do, and we focused on emergent plants because we knew we were going to have a dropping pool this year. We are set up to put more emergent plants out, and we're going to focus on the cages because it looks like the pens are doing really well. And so we've got some bulrush, the spike rush, which is great for water quality, it's great for fish, it's great for wildlife. Thalia, which is a good drought and flood-resistant plant, and it's pretty, it's got purple flowers. And then the arrowhead, and then the water star grass, the eelgrass, and the pondweed are the submerged species. And basically, we're kind of holding those until the water recovers. Pete, if you want to interrupt with a question, you just go jump on in, okay?
I look like I have a question.
You look like it. Yeah, it's good.
Well, one of the things I just wanted to ask you is we know the lake is going to continue to go down until probably March, maybe later than that, in another month or two.
Yeah.
I personally would just like the opportunity to meet you out there sometime later.
Yeah.
As it gets lower and lower and lower, there'll be more opportunity to kind of visit some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just take a look at it. So actually, I didn't mean to be that interruptive.
No, that's
Which is
good.
not my nature.
You look like you want to say something. I
I was
like
going to say that at the
interaction.
end, because I'd like to see it. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been involved in it since we first did it back years and years and years ago.
remember that.
And I'd like to get up close and look at it, and we've got that opportunity with the lake being as low as it is.
Yeah.
And I'd like to take a look at it. And so
Excellent.
maybe we could set that up
Okay.
for March or sometime, and
Okay,
maybe
yeah,
some of the
before
other,
it comes up.
maybe some of the other trust members would like to see it also, because it's,
There won't be a lot to see, because the new stuff won't be coming up, and the old stuff will be brown, but you'll see it.
well, at the beginning, I kind of did a little tour, and I saw some of the things, some of the plants you were trying to eradicate, and I'd like to look at some of those areas again to see what our success was. The one that had the rhizome that went.
Yeah.
Spread.
Well, and there are some spots I would like to show you,
Right.
and the patches, and there's one place where there is a redneck beer can dividing the Phragmites from the bulrush.
Right.
I don't know why. I think someone put it there. But it's not for the beer can, but to show how the plants have stratified out.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. March. Okay, cool. The summary, the upper left-hand corner is Matt, and, there's a little sycamore tree over to the right, and peeking out from the edge is a Phragmites shoot. And if you go back further, there's a dead tree back in there, and the Phragmites is just coming up in that tree. That's one of those spots that we just found walking around. And he was really, really helpful. He's got a good eye, too. But it was really promising in what we saw. We saw some new target species, old species that we saw for the first time in a long time. And then patches of those things. We're shifting from the pens to the cages. We're going to continue the Phragmites management. Working with y'all staff and the wildlife department has really added value to this. It's a much better project than if it was just us alone. And the heads up on the lake levels was really, really helpful. But as far as getting submerged plants in there and make sure that that's jump-starting going, that's going to set it back a couple of years. So, that's really what I got to say.
Good.
Any questions?
I'm sorry, I have a quick question if none of the trustees do. So when you talk about Phragmites management, we want some Phragmites, but we want it to not take over the lake, or we want to get rid of all of it?
I guess my point is, I thought there was eradication, and really it's control, but you're managing it. And, where we find it, we spray it, we treat it, and knock it back. My fear is there's probably some more rootstock in some places that are going to pop up. I really thought we knocked it out that last time, but it's going to be, it's a management scheme and it's control. So to clarify.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Next item is a presentation concerning the selection process for the wastewater treatment management.
So, Mr. Chairman, CDM Smith has been helping us with this project, and with this is our project manager, Susan Foley, who's going to provide some background information about the selection process.
Good afternoon. I'm back for a second round. I spoke with you on July 7th, I believe, this summer, and we talked a little bit about the selection process at that time. Go ahead. I'd like to review a couple of the things we talked about then, which is just an overview of the selection process. We'll then talk about our evaluation and also the CDM Smith recommendation for selection. So our current contract goes from January 1st, 2003 to December 31st, 2016. The contract includes services, operations and maintenance of the wastewater treatment plants. It includes solids management, and it includes the industrial pretreatment program assistance, and also providing services for the reuse program. As you saw, that contract will be completed in December 2016, so about a year from now, that contract goes through another year. And We have a contractor service period that we would talk about with transition services with the next contract that would start from contract award through December of next year, with a new operational start date for the new contract as January 1st, 2017, just a year from now. The completion date of that contract would be December 31st, 2021. It does have a renewal period for 5 years, of 5 years. So after 5 years, you do have the ability to renew that contract. Just a little overview of the contract. Go ahead. The contractor selection process started last March, when we, middle of February to March, when we conducted a needs assessment at CDM Smith, conducted a needs assessment to determine what should be the current service agreement requirements. We did an evaluation of the current condition of equipment. We looked at ensuing regulations. We looked at changes to requirements for treatment. We looked at the ability of the trust to manage the contract and to provide oversight and quality assurance for the contract. And we rewrote the contract to include some updates. And the new contract is quite different from the existing contract. It includes strengthened service requirements. It includes performance standards, which include standards for compliance, standards for management, requirements including reporting standards. It includes standards for maintenance, corrective, preventive, and predictive maintenance. It also includes staffing minimums. The current staffing at the plant right now, Veolia currently staffs the plant with 72. With the new requirements, our requirement for staffing was 84 FTE in order to meet the requirements. The reporting responsibilities are much tighter and much more transparent. They allow for a transparent reporting to the trust. Although it's done well now, everything can always get better. And this contract asks for more in the terms of reporting. And it provides tighter oversight opportunities for the trust. So the trust has more ability to provide oversight and quality assurance. We received 3 proposals on September 29th. And we received proposals from CH2M Hill Engineers, that's CH2M, Severn Trent Environmental Services, and Veolia, Water North America Central, LLC. The technical review committee that was selected by the general manager per the RFP requirements evaluated those proposals, and CDM Smith separately evaluated the proposals. So we worked together to combine our selection recommendations and talked through our different approaches towards the review and evaluation of the proposals. The TRC then conducted an interview with Severn Trent to ascertain some information about their services. And then today, as you can see in bold, the general manager is delivering a recommendation to Aquit in the city. Now, the general manager did also deliver the initial recommendation a couple of weeks ago, and this is a subsequent follow-up to that request for more information. The follow-up action is to negotiate the agreement for consideration following today. Contractor evaluation criteria or the proposal evaluation criteria was based on cost and then a technical approach. The technical approach was broken down into several segments. It first was an approach just to the technical components of the project. We looked at the quality of the proposer and staffing plan. We asked the proposers to provide a management, operations, and maintenance plan. How would you manage this contract? How would you manage the facilities? How would you operate the facilities? And how would you maintain the facilities? Give us examples of what you would do and how you would meet the service requirements. CDM Smith conducted a review of references. During the request for proposals, we asked these contractors to provide a list of all of the service agreements, the wastewater treatment service agreements they have had in the last 5 years, whether they were current or not. So we got a list of all of their service agreements, and we also asked for information regarding what services were they providing and for what size plants. So we were able to go through and select several references for each plant. or for each contractor, and then we called the references and interviewed those references. We got very positive references for all contractors, very capable contractors. So that's a very positive thing for the trust, is to know that all the contractors here are very capable of providing these services. We also asked for innovative and alternative recommendations, but those innovative and alternative recommendations were not included as part of the evaluation criteria. You could get so many different things that they couldn't really be part of the actual evaluation, but we wanted to know what they thought. And every firm came up with great ideas, great innovative and alternative recommendations that could be considered for the future. And then we had several compliance requirements so that the proposals had to comply with the RFP. And all firms, I'm happy to say, also complied with the requirements of the RFP. We had great proposals from 3 very, very good contractors. The first evaluation criteria, and it's not really first, we actually looked at technical approach first, but this comes up because it's really tells the story of the evaluation, was the cost evaluation. We asked for an initial O&M fee, and then we asked for we asked for the kilowatt usage for the first year, and then each firm's kilowatt usage was multiplied times the current cost of kilowatt hour. And so we came up with this price. And these are the total initial costs for each of the firms. The Severn Trent price was 10% or up to 14% lower than the others. So there was a significant difference in the price proposal and the cost proposal. Next slide. The technical approach, all the proposers, as I said, met the minimum requirements. All proposers had good proposals and had good ideas. So it's very difficult to judge based on the proposal. However, there were a couple things that set the Severn Trent proposal apart. One of them is that Severn Trent, while its cost was leased, they offered more people to work at the facilities. So there are 85 full-time equivalents in the Severn Trent proposal. Again, the project manager that Severn Trent proposed had an interesting combination of experience and service. And that included both public sector and understanding of what the trust goes through every day to meet requirements and what's important to the public sector, and also contract operations experience. And we thought that brought some strength to the Severn Trent proposal. In addition to that, Severn Trent's management, operations, and maintenance plans really provided an excellent understanding of and an approach to the service agreement's performance requirements. So they offered a very strong proposal. Based on a review of the evaluation criteria that were set forth in the RFP and the interview that was conducted, I am representing CDM as a whole here, not just myself, but CDM Smith finds the following. Severn Trent has proposed the lowest total initial cost for the services required. Severn Trent has provided a very strong technical proposal for the services required. And Severn Trent has demonstrated an acceptable organizational approach to prevention of compliance issues. It is our opinion that Severn Trent provides Aquit with the best overall value for the services required. CDM Smith recommends that Aquit select Severn Trent to provide wastewater operation and maintenance, solids management, and industrial pretreatment services beginning January 1st, 2017. Based on our evaluation of their proposals. Do you have any questions? I'd be happy to answer any.
Thank you. You indicated that this management contract is substantially different than the existing one. Can you discuss the major terms as far as the differences?
I think one of the strongest things that we've done is we've added the performance requirements and performance standards. The trust expects that that full service fee will be paid every month, but if the service provider does not meet the requirements, the trust will not pay the service provider for the full fee. That's a huge difference. There's actually 15% of the initial fee and the monthly fee that's on the line every month. If service requirements are not met, the trust will not pay the full fee. That's a big one. Some of the other things are just changes with regard to the implementation and the ability to conduct a third-party audit during the course of the contract, and how that's implemented and how that's intended to be responded to, and also the ability to audit books is also strengthened. It's been there, but it is strengthened, and the response to those audits and those and also inspections of the facilities and how that will be handled is much stronger than it was before. So those are a couple of the things.
With respect to the performance of the company providing these services, are we asking them to do anything substantially different?
We are asking them to do more. The facilities are aging. So one of the things that's happening is as your facilities age, in order to keep your facilities running and operating and to take care of your assets, maintenance is more important. So we're asking for an escalated maintenance level of effort at the facilities so that you are able to ascertain two things. One, when do we really have to spend the capital, and how long can we really continue to more cost-effectively maintain our facilities than spend capital. So there's escalated maintenance management and asset management requirements in the contract, and there's more strength in those requirements and in the reporting requirements regarding the maintenance of the assets. There's more protection for your facilities.
Yeah. Okay. Final question.
Yep.
The existing provider is staffing the engagement in the low 70s as far as total employees.
That's correct.
And this proposal requested that staffing be increased to mid to high 80s. Can you explain the reason for the increase in staffing?
Yes, we actually suggested that it be at least 80, with no additional fee payment through 84. So the option was at 80 through and with no additional fee. If you got to the point where you needed more than 84 and could justify it, then you could seek more payment for it. So it was 80. So it's an increase of about 8 over the current. Most of the providers all the providers decided that they needed more staff than that. And those staff come in various means. There's a couple things. There are maintenance planners and schedulers that are now a requirement of the contract. And there are an architectural floating crew to take care of housekeeping and just maintenance of the actual facilities. There are more maintenance staff required.
Thank you.
Any other questions? One of the reasons this was continued was because of questions that I had and some other members of the trust had with regard to the situation in Hugo. And I had an opportunity to visit with the leadership of this of the proposer here, and I'm satisfied that although I personally won't accept any responsibility if it messes up, I'll blame that on Marcia and them and everybody else that was involved. But I am satisfied that I think that they're a good organization and they can do the job, and they're committed to doing it. I looked at some of the requirements this time compared to what we had 5 years ago. This is a substantially stronger contract from our standpoint than we've ever had before, and I'm looking forward to moving ahead.
Pete, as it relates to the incident down in Hugo, looking at it in more detail, it appears part of the issue, and we may not know all the details, relate back to Hugo's own system that this company was managing.
Some of it, but I was struck in the meeting that I had with the face-to-face meeting with the fact that they owned that portion of it that's theirs. They took ownership in the problem and didn't try to put the blame on anybody. I mean, they talked about what happened, why it happened, what they did afterward, and I've always thought that one of the true tests of integrity is owning what you've done, and that, and I was very impressed yesterday that they owned that.
Yeah, there were really two issues down in Hugo, and one of them was caused, I think, very much by weather-related issues that was probably outside of their control. There was another issue down there where I think they had some missteps and took actions to correct it.
Okay, thank you.
I think in a lot, that's the much more short version than I was given, but I think they owned the part of it that was theirs, and I personally think that's a good way to judge people, whether they do that or not.
You know, all three proposers are well-known in the industry. They're amongst the best that are out there. But this is one of the largest wastewater operations contracts in the country yesterday. I didn't realize until Marcia told me yesterday that's actually around the number 3 as far as largest contracts that are out there. So we should be getting the best to propose on it. And we did. And they come back and have a contract, the one they're putting more personnel in, cheaper price, and they met all of our desires in the contract, and we wanted more than the others did. So to me, I think it's a really good direction for us to go in. Would you like a motion?
Thank you.
I think we continued it 2 weeks ago. So I would make a motion that the trust be authorized to enter into contract, or be authorized to negotiate to enter into contract with Severn Trent.
Second. Have a motion and a second to do what the manager said. All in favor say aye. We're going to do that. That's the resolution, right? Okay. If I'd read the agenda, I'd know what we were voting on exactly. That concludes the regular part of the agenda. Are there comments from trustees? General manager report?
Not today, thank you.
Citizens to be heard? We're adjourned. Thank you.